Welcome to our first all hands of 2022. This is for the PL EngRes team. If you don't know what the PL EngRes team is, it's one of the teams working in the Protocol Labs ecosystem, where our vision is to drive breakthroughs in computing to push technology and humanity forward. There's a ton of amazing work that's happening in the space. Our team in particular focuses a lot on some of the core protocol work within this area, especially across IPFS, libp2p, Filecoin, and other technologies like test ground, multi-formats, DRAND, and others. There's been a ton of amazing work in this space over the past year. Big thank you and congratulations to this community for all of the stuff that was achieved in 2021. Looking forward to the next year, this is kind of a revised version of our mission, focusing on scaling and unlocking new opportunities for IPFS, Filecoin, and libp2p by onboarding the best developers and contributors in the world, driving breakthroughs in protocol utility and capability, and scaling network native research and development across the PL network. We're achieving that kind of in four main ways. One, by helping scale the number of people who are contributing to these awesome protocols, making sure that the IPFS and Filecoin ecosystem has really robust storage and retrieval. 3, by driving breakthroughs in programmability, scalability, and computation. And then 4, making sure as we do that, that we as a network continue maintaining all of the operations and infrastructure and kind of execution that we need across all of these open source protocols to be an awesome place to contribute and to keep all of these networks running. This is our agenda for today. We're going to dive into a quick update from each of the 4 core protocols that we contribute to, IPFS, libp2p, IPLD, and Filecoin, then spotlights on some of the major accomplishments, deep dive into the indexing work that the Bedrock team is doing, and then team updates from a number of different teams, and hopefully we'll still have some time for Q&A. So without further ado, I'll hand off to Adine for IPFS.
All right. Yeah, let's talk about IPFS and what's been going on. All right, so yeah, we're tracking lots of sort of performance indicators so we can figure out sort of how the network is progressing over time. We have some big ones that we've been tracking for a while around gateway usage, a number of peer-to-peer, and how long it takes to actually find stuff. But we have a bunch more around sort of community participation and sort of building out the core protocols and the number of people who sort of know how these things work. You know, how it's being used on the peer-to-peer side, on the gateway side, the amount of content in the network and the amount of content that's being retrieved from the network, which are sort of different metrics. You know, things like specs and performance regression testing that can make it easier for people to build on our software and build additional IPFS implementations that are compatible with everyone else. So this month, there's been a bunch going on. There's the Go IPFS 0.12 migration, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and running those on larger nodes. There's been a bunch of infrastructure work around the Hydra nodes, which are these DHT nodes, which are sort of non-critical, but Protocol Labs runs them because it's a peer-to-peer network and no one's needed in particular. But they will be critical in the short term for bridging with additional content routing systems, right? So sort of the centralized point serving as a bridge to new systems as we get those things scaled up and ready to be integrated into the rest of the network. There's also been some work on sort of driving design on IPFS Filecoin interop. Saw some exciting results today around being able to, fetch data from a boost node, running like perfectly fine from Go IPFS. So that's like very exciting. There's obviously a bunch of stress testing and other stuff that will need to happen before it's merged, but like very cool to see that, as well as plans for sort of content routing and how that scales out, which we'll hear about more too. And we have Russell is much needed and looking forward to all of that. Some challenges have been around just sort of having the bandwidth to handle, supporting critical infrastructure, advising and doing development work. This month is mostly critical infrastructure and community work to maximize impact on helping enable other people. But we can do all of these things. And if you are someone, IPFS and infrastructure and Go IPFS in particular, test our season migrations. Help us help you.
Awesome, thanks. Over to Max to talk about libp2p.
Cool. Hello, everyone. libp2p, I'm not going to introduce libp2p itself. Let's dive into the numbers. a couple of them here. We have an ever-growing set of nodes that actually participate in the many networks. We're scraping all the different DHTs, for example, the Filecoin DHT, IPFS DHT, Polkadot DHT, and so on. So that's very cool. A very specific metric, which is very interesting for those that follow libp closely. We've been working a bunch on hole punching, and we've been rolling out new protocols. And one of the exciting ones is Circuit Relay v2, which is being rolled out on the IPFS network. And we're seeing more and more nodes actually acting as public relay nodes in the network. So we see around 1.1 thousand nodes right now offering the Circuit Relay v2 protocol as a public relay server, which is really cool. So next to that, we want to track a lot more around community and users. Would be cool to track the amount of significant projects, but also things like how often are we publicly speaking about libp. Then another category is consistency and progress across the project. This is especially relevant, like libp is a specification, and then 7+ language implementations. So it could be hard. We need to make sure all protocols are specified, so we'll keep track of which one is not specified. Then the percentage of specified protocols implemented in the 7+ languages, and then also test coverage across the many specified protocols in the many implementations. Next to those meta metrics, it's worth looking into specific feature metrics, like for example, for hole punching, how many nodes are actually supporting hole punching across our many networks? How is our success rate? But then also in peer-to-peer land, always super important, what is our handshake latency? So let's keep track of the 95th percentile latency across a long period of time across the many networks. All right, a couple of just short term, we revived the libp community calls. So a lot of folks in there. That's really cool. We have 3 calls, 1 already done, 2 to go at the starting of February. We're picking up WebRTC again, or we're trying to contract this out. WebRTC is super important for anything browser specific, as that gives us connectivity to non-secured connections and also allows us to do hole punching in browsers. We have a test ground Rust SDK, which enables us to test Rust libp on test ground, but also any other Rust binary on the very cool test ground project. We have the AutoNet spec merged. We have a Rust implementation merged. We have the Circuit Relay v2 implementation merged, and all of that now released as v042. All right, small challenge. We want to grow the team. We're also much involved in general protocol apps hiring, so that takes a lot of time and energy on our end. Cool, thank you very much.
Great update. Over to WarpFork, Eric for IPLD.
Hello, hello. So indeed, I will hope that folks know what IPLD is already, a universal data language and an attempt to give everybody libraries to make decentralized software faster, build it faster. So I like to claim that we have some decent success at this. There are a bunch of other projects and repositories in the wild, depending on a variety of IPLD implementations in a variety of languages. So it's some lovely numbers for that. On the next slide, we will talk about, thank you, some additional things that we would like to be tracking in the future. We know we have communities out there, but we would love to give more insight into that community and build up a richer set of information about which parts of IPLD for what, and also just help people find each other. So there will be links to Matrix and more community, and anybody listening who wants to be part of that, please come hang out. Another thing that we're hoping to measure in the future is, like other projects have said, consistency of all of the things that we do provide, building feature parity checklists and making sure that when you look for an IPLD library, you kind of know what you're going to get. Right now, that's a really fun trick because there's these huge ranges of features. Some libraries have some things. We have libraries not only in different languages, but sometimes several different libraries in the same languages. So the good thing about that is people enthusiastically chase the features that they want in their own implementations. The fun thing is now the rest of us have to figure out what's where. So hopefully we'll increase the legibility of this in the coming year. I've covered the challenges section there already. What folks might like to know about recently is we are making a bigger and bigger push to do all new features be data-driven and test fixture-driven and land specifications and those fixtures right away in the IPLD meta repo. So they also go directly to the website where people can find them. Folks who are interested in tools, we have a tool repo, which contains CLI stuff. Right now, we've started it by doing codegen tooling and giving stuff like that a place to live there. In the future, this is a thing that we would like to grow. So if you want some kind of tooling around IPLD and you're not sure where to put it, this might be a place. Lots of libraries are, I guess I probably don't want to dive into the details of that too much in our limited time here, but anyone who is looking for more information about IPLD share that they're doing with IPLD, there's links here to the community call, and there's also a bunch of people in the Matrix or the Discord that bridged who would love to chat with you. And
thanks,
I'll
Eric.
wrap it up.
Over to Ayush for Filecoin.
Woohoo! Running this quick. Filecoin, hopefully you're already familiar with it. It's a crypto-powered storage network that tries to store humanity's most valuable data. In terms of our metrics, the big exciting number to share this week across the 50 EB mark, and that is a number so large I cannot really read it in my head. Over to our highlights. I think if you've been around the Filecoin project for a while now, sorry, can we get to the next slide? Filecoin project for a while now, you know that in general, we have a lot going on, but especially so right now. The number of trains that we have running in parallel is really incredible to think about. So Snapdeals, which is a project that enables Filecoin storage providers to convert committed capacity or deal-less sectors to store real data, is underway. The trusted setup was completed, which we'll be talking about in the Spotlight section. So Right is really focused on testing as well as the migration that the network will have to go through in order to get to the new network version. Our success rate is not where we want it to be, but that's how these things go. So we have a dedicated test network for it that we are finding bugs on. The community and the storage provider X group have really been great with the bug reports, so please keep those coming. The FVM had a very busy week, which we'll be hearing about in the Spotlight section as well. And our FIPS are moving along thanks to the stewardship of Caitlin on the Filecoin Foundation for that. So we know what's happening in network version 15, and we've actually already started planning our network version 16, which we're expecting will be the Filecoin network version that introduces FVM things for the network for the first time. So lots going on. Stay tuned.
Awesome. Over to Spotlights, starting with FVM.
Hey, Raul here, speaking FVM team. So FVM, the big milestone is that FVM is out of incubation mode. We've been hard at work for 2 months, and we just recently open sourced the ref FVM repo, which is the reference implementation of the FVM. It's written in Rust. Use the WASM engine, and make sure to check out the repo. We launched the website. This is a new home and an entry point to the world of the FVM. So check it out at fvm.filecoin.io. There's tons of possibilities, opportunities that the FVM unleashes. The roadmap is in there and lots more information. We also created the FVM Foundry, which is a long-term interest group of individuals and orgs that are focused on implementing Filecoin use cases and contributing to the FVM itself. And we opened up applications for the Foundry's early builders program. Applications are open until the 24th of February, so visit the website to learn more. And what's happening next? We're integrating RefFVM into Lotus and launching Canary nodes, working on submitting a FIP to formally introduce the FVM as a protocol upgrade. And we're pivoting to focus on testing the foundational FVM, and also preparing the upcoming network upgrade that Ayush mentioned to introduce a non-programmable version of the FVM. And of course, this was made possible by tons of people. So Lotus, the Lotus team, Fission, ChainSafe, our design, the design team here at Protocol Labs, comms and products. There's way too many people involved behind this big milestone to mention all of them, but check out the list on this slide. Thanks to all of you.
Cool, my name. Okay, so trusted setup. This is the major news. So we're kind of unlocking the potential of V15, especially the participants and the team who helped this out. It was a long process, lasted for over a month in total. And next steps are we are going to share the news with the community. I'm currently working on a blog post and doing an announcement, and then we will start preparing everything for upload that needs to happen in the next week, so we can unlock testing of newly created params on calibration. So this is kind of in terms of next steps. Did it. This is the major news.
Hello, this is me with the news from NFT Storage Land. Huge congrats to the whole team and Also, all the folks helping us on the IPFS side, on the gateway side. NFT storage has crossed 25 million uploads. Actually, we're past 27 million now. And this is number of uploads, likely even more NFTs, given that folks NFT drops for a given upload and things like that. Growth lately has been driven a lot by NFT port, Polygon NFT API, as well as some of the other big marketplaces, as well as a bunch of individual artists out there. So we have a whole bunch of different user types engaging with us to help us achieve this milestone. The team making sure the service is up and working really hard. So a huge shout out to them, and you'll hear more from us hopefully soon.
Awesome. Very good. Again, David.
Yes, and then update from the Web3 storage side, the pinning services API has been implemented for this week. We had our friends at Potato to help us there, and Alan and Vasco were big helps there, landing that as well. If you have data to pin that is not NFT data, let us know. There is an allow list to prevent abuse of the service, but we can add you to that, and you can get your data easily onto Filecoin if it's already on the IPFS network through web3.storage.
All right, go IPFS 012. All right, so it's a very concise release. It changes the blocks being keyed by CIDs to being keyed by multi-hashes. This is to help us move to CIDV1 by default, because in CIDV0 there is only one codec. At CIDV1 there are many codecs. It allows retrieving of data without knowing the codec ahead of time, and removes some painful ecosystem divides between Go IPFS and basically anything in the IPFS ecosystem that came along afterwards, which includes like Lotus, Estuary, Query, anything. And as we've had to do in a very long time. RC1 is out. This is a careful migration. We want to make sure people have chances to run it. We're building confidence, and hopefully should be good to go next week. But if you are a production user and you use Go IPFS, recommend giving the migration a try, so that if something is amiss, that you can let us know. Yeah, and as Ladle says, CIDV1.
Great. I just sharing for Alex here. JS libp2p has had a new major release. I can see some of the additions that were made here, including getting the peer store asynchronous. Here is addressing a memory issue, which was kind of blocking our ability to turn on the DHT by default in JS IPFS. So we'll maybe go to the next slide. So that's also the next big news, is that there is a new version of JS IPFS that depends on this new version of JS libp2p. And we have DHT client on by default. We haven't really announced, it's not really showing up in our metrics, but we'll make sure for next month that we actually show what kind of usage this is getting. And also DAC support is there by default. Come more announcement to be made public on this recently happened. So good job, Alex.
Hi, folks. This is Vishal. I'm gonna, oh God, I have a typo. Okay, that's great. I'm gonna talk to you about libp2p. So coming with libp2p V018, we're currently in RC2, and we're gonna be shipping it very soon. We introduced a new important command in the system, which is called the Resource Manager. So the problem we're trying to solve here is that the libp2p network stack has been, well, not anymore, black hole, and we had no resource accounting. So basically, you didn't know how many connections or how much memory was being consumed, and control as well. So we introduced a system which is very deeply integrated into the libp2p stack, and also has some user tunable parameters. Basically, this allows us to account with very fine granularity at all levels of the stack. So out of the box, we get some protection from certain out-of-memory conditions, like per core. So if you want to know more about this, you can visit the Go libp2p Resource Manager repo, which has a design note in the README. And yeah, give it a shot. libp2p V018, RC1, and RC2 before we release the real thing.
Hi there, this is Alex from the Protocol Opportunities team. The FVM is going to enable user programming of Filecoin, which we're super stoked about. But unfortunately, most of the interesting files that we're really excited about wouldn't be possible right off the bat because the built-in actors that we've shipped with the network at liftoff don't have the kind of hooks and flexibility and composable primitives that would enable building the sort of storage programming Lego together to make these great applications. So the Protocol Opportunities team is working on refactoring these actors to enable these hooks, which involves decoupling the miner actor from the built-in market to enable other storage markets to be built and to compete on a level playing field with the built-in one. There's going to be huge potential storage market features here that I'm really excited about. Also working to make the storage itself more programmable, make it more like a container for data that miners can put data in, storage providers can put data in and move around. We're working to establish standard APIs to make these markets and their deals interoperable and enable the kind of derivatives and primitives into a marketplace for storage deals and their use. And also working to expand Filecoin Plus to support alternative markets as well. Filecoin Plus is you might even think of it as just one of the deal incentivization schemes, and so we want to make it open the space schemes to happen as well. So a lot of this happening in the discussions part of the FIPS repo, and then will make its way into FIPS because these changes involve consensus changes to the built-in actors. But of course, after all this work, we'll have built the platform for an explosion of programming the smart contract upgrades led by the governance processes of the teams building those smart contracts, which is going to be a fantastic place for increasing the pace of our innovation. Thank you.
Consensus Lab, you're going to hear a lot from us in this quarter. So basically, this is the outline of the demos that we are going to give in the EngRes demo days, which are basically in the beginning of going on hierarchical consensus, the research seminar of February 3rd, 5 UTC. So be sure to be there. So hierarchical consensus is in the spotlight. There will be injecting of new funds into subnet, like transferring the funds from one subnet to up in the hierarchy and down in the hierarchy. This will be demoed on February 3rd. And then we will have full-fledged cross-subnet transactions like transferring fill across subnet to subnet. You will see this 10th of March. Support for arbitrary cross-network messages. And then towards the end of Q1, you will see more general purpose cross-subnet applications, including two-phase commit like fair exchange of two assets. Then on the other projects, we launched Wi5. This is the first BFT consensus for UDICO subnets. And Dennis, who joined us, is essentially integrating Tendermint as a BFT consensus for UDICO subnets. And on checkpointing Filecoin into Bitcoin, we have two demos, is actually using the actual Bitcoin testnet and the IPFS. And the final demo, which will be end of Q1 or April, will tolerate malicious and misbehaving nodes. Be sure to be there. These are all public demos like this one, so be sure to be there and follow our work.
I don't know if ZX is on the call, but there's a lot of updates to Starboard Dashboards. They also have a Twitter account that's doing weekly updates. And so this is a great network resource that folks looking into kind of upcoming updates in the network that are being published and open sourced. So if you are interested in learning more about the Filecoin network, there's a ton of really great resources here to take advantage of.
This is Marina from the Bedrock team. Bedrock team held a storage and retrieval summit last week. Was to go over the current state of storage and retrievals with the community, review some of the most critical problems, and also align on the key priorities for 2022. We had opportunity to have problem-solving sessions to dive deep in some of these areas, and also do a little bit of solutioning to try to figure out. The outcome was Bedrock created a high-level roadmap. And that roadmap will be shared with the community shortly. We're in the process of putting it One of the other next steps is setting up bounties and grants that provide opportunity for network teams to participate in building out and to improving storage and retrieval. And one of the organizational changes is that Bedrock and POP teams will be combined so that we can have a closer feedback loop between users, product, and engine.
Awesome. We're going to hear more about indexing from Will and Jake.
Cool. So one of the things that Bedrock has been working on that we had a chance to, but are also sort of in the final phase of getting this out to a bunch more people, is an indexing layer that sort of will live and help evolve the current IPFS DHT and provide a similar service in the Filecoin network. And so, you know, the sort of impetus here was we looked at all of the content ending up on Filecoin, and there's a lot of it. And in fact, there's enough that if we just sort of take all of the individual content SIDs within deals and throw them on the IPFS DHT, it's going to be a pretty large burden to current DHT participants. And even if we scale the DHT participants with the amount of Filecoin, you know, there's just a set of usage that we need to be able to evolve and do better than the current DHT to make work. So think about things like you know, Google scale internet search content. Even if you spread over all the users using it, is still just like too much for a standard DHT. You need to be able to take advantage of the sort of heterogeneous resources that different participants have, right? So some people have servers. Those servers can hold a lot more index content than other people who have a cell phone. And if you end up having to go to the person with a cell phone when you need the really popular content, you end up being sad. So actually getting this evolution has a bunch of different phases. What we're going to start seeing sort of through this quarter is a MVP first phase of it. And that will take the form of these indexer nodes, which in this fairly complex diagram are light blue. And so let me talk through what this like and what these nodes are in their first form, and then a little bit about how see a roadmap of how these both into the network, making retrievals great, and then will evolve the fabric of our interplanetary stack. So data providers have a bunch of content that's at the top. As the providers get more content in the form of Filecoin deals or in the additional content for pinned to providers or other processes, they will advertise that their content has changed on a pub subtopic. And so that pub subtopic will flow through and allow a set of network indexing nodes that want to track what content is available to know when to pull and update the list of content. Separately, we're adding a component that we will put in with the current Lotus markets. We also have a standalone that can happen, and we will be working towards the FIP to standardize what this looks like, where storage providers can advertise the list of CI have, and so index pull those lists, sort of queued pub sub updates, but also we'll just pull regularity based on how frequently they've learned the different providing their content to stay current. So the structure here is set up. Indexers can join. It's an open, non-permission network. We want that to also give us a way to sort of begin spurring in innovation, where it's not like we are making the be-all end-all indexer node, but rather that by having a strong interface of making all of the lists of who has what content available, we can start to play with a bunch of different types of content routing things. Indexer node that we're working on that's already running is called Store the Index. So at filecoin-project/store the index, and running at sid.contact, cid.contact. There's not a super nice UX if you go to that domain quite yet, but there will be soon. And what it will do is it will try and just maintain a full index of all of the SIDs that it's seen and who has them. So you'll ask it for a SID or a multi-hash, and it will give you an array of which providers have that. And it's also willing to store with SIDS a small amount up to, I think, about 100 bytes of metadata. And the expectation is that metadata, which protocols a provider speaks, available for free. Can I expect this data will be available quickly? Things of that nature. The other side then is that retrieval clients or clients who are looking for content can go and ask the indexer node who has a SID, and they get back a response. And this looks a lot like our current content routing, which currently go to the IPFS DHT and ask, find providers for a SID and get back an array of the providers that have that SID. Cool. So we've got a few different points. One is, how do current IPFS clients get the content that's stored in these indexer nodes and in Filecoin? There's sort of a rollout plan that has been evolving. The expectation is initially we will have the Hydra nodes that Adine mentioned at the beginning of this hour able to query these indexer nodes through a library in IPFS called Go Delegated Routing. So that in addition to maintaining their own idea of what's in the DHT, they'll also go out and query these indexer nodes and return those found providers. And that'll enable it for IPFS. Longer term, we want to have a sort of automated discovery of indexer nodes and other content routers in addition to the DHT. There's a proposal for that. It's linked in our Slack channel, Store the Index, and also will be on sid.contact shortly. Which basically says that through existing peer discovery mechanisms, in the same way that you find gateways or other new bootstrappers, you'll also find additional content routers and proposes an initial reputation system around how you can rank and both factor in content routers that are close to you, which probably will have better latency and better responsiveness, but also ones that are giving you good responses and lots of data so that you can find content that's close to you, because there's a trade-off there. I guess the other things that I haven't is how we're dealing with issues like security and trust, and making sure that both indexer nodes are telling you the right thing, and also the data providers are telling you the right thing. Both of these are going to, at least initially, happen through a sort of layer 2 reputation protocol. And so there's two different ways that you can think of this. One is that we can run a bunch of, well, so the good news, right, is the list of SIDs is now public because the providers are going to be providing them. So we can look at that list of SIDs, randomly sample through it, and then make queries and see both, does the provider actually allow retrieval of the content, especially the content that they claim is free to retrieve, and indexers, do they, in fact, the provider does have that content. So there can be a feedback loop on both of these that gets used to help weight, do I trust that this provider is telling the truth, and so should I return its responses? And also, is this indexer node functioning correctly? Should it be provided to clients? Those sort of active testing feedback loops should be enough initially. There will be, of course, a chicken and egg potential fraud that we end up in until we get it sort of solidified into provable protocols. But this is enough for the initial response, where we can test, we can get to scale, and we can have stuff starting to flow. I think I'm going to leave it here. If you go to either the Store the Index node implementation, or in Slack in Store the Index, there's a demo we recorded last week that shows you in a terminal actually make retrievals through the indexer node. The indexer node this week is properly indexing all of the content on our first Filecoin storage provider, and we're excited to roll it out to a bunch more next week. Thanks.
Awesome, super useful deep dive. Thank you so much. Going over to our team updates, starting with IP Stewards. Yep. Steve.
Hi, so independent of happening with the specific projects like IPFS, IPLD, and libp2p, just some more general things across the team. We're going to definitely be helping move public communications, particularly for those projects, and into public channels. So that's a key push. It's going to take some activation energy. As mentioned, we already are involved in hiring, but really need to ratchet that up more. Partly for the EngRes Starfleet team, but also just in general for the network. Want to make sure we're really helping bring people in, and then also with the mentoring and such afterwards. So that's a focus for us. Obviously, we mentioned a lot of metrics that we want to collect and believe we can collect, but actually need to get to displaying those and reviewing them. So that'll take some effort from the team. And then, end of February, March, want to actually have our roadmaps updated and public. And test ground is really going to be important for us this year to make sure we're not pushing out interoperability regressions or performance regressions. And so getting folks on board to be able to drive that project forward and making that project plan will be another effort, kind of cross-cutting for the team. Just in terms of hiring, we are seeing some fruit as Russell is a GUI engineer that has already started with us. We have a productivity engineer joining starting next week, and likely another that we've already given an offer out to, and secured for some part-time Rust libp2p help in April, and hope to have a lot more to share here next month's update. Thanks.
And thank you. Over to Sid for NetOps.
Yeah, hi. Apologies for this dense slide, but we actually have to cover all of infrastructure across all of our projects. So we're going to keep it fairly short. We actually are seeing a tremendous amount of growth in the traffic to the IPFS gateways. No surprises there. You saw from David on the NFT storage and Web3 storage stats. So we are keeping our eyes open on capacity and ensuring that we actually keep on expanding across all the sites that we have. And thanks to this amazing team, staying on top of really some demanding requirements around scaling and as well as improving the performance. So kudos to the team to keep everything going. I mean, almost like changing an aircraft that's already flying. So that's quite an amazing feat. And also thanks to the stewards for providing support on the Go IPFS issues and all those things. So that's very helpful. Quick update on the roadmap updates. We actually rolled out the new Gateway v5 architecture with a dedicated Nginx load balancer tier across all of our sites, and we have seen a significant improvement in the performance. In terms of the number of errors that we are seeing have gone down dramatically because of better traffic management. We actually rolled out, we actually completed the development and integration testing of the new features, which includes the multi-beacon support and unchained randomness. So that's being rolled out, and the next steps are to roll it out into the testnet and following with the mainnet. Filecoin infra has a number of KPIs being planned, and we'll roadmap pretty soon. And in general, we will be seeing a lot more KPIs being shared publicly. Any suggestions on people have around some of the other metrics that you would like us to capture? Suggestions will be very welcome from the network. We also want to survey the PL network on an ongoing basis to capture the opportunities and challenges that folks in general are facing, and see how we can actually potentially help with things that we are planning or things we have already done in the past. So I'm going to leave it for people to kind of take a look at it async, but hiring software engineers, SREs, and TPMs, helping us, improve our current state. And yeah, we have few offers out, but contributions and hiring awesome people on the team.
Great update.
Thanks.
And ton of awesome highlights for folks to read. I think ResDev has two of their labs are giving updates today. So over to lab.
Yeah, this is Marco again. So we discussed our plans for demos in the previous slide, right? So I'm going to focus on other things. Consensus Lab grew to 9 members, well, almost 9 members, because 2 are joining in the next 2 months. So all of us are going to, including the future members, are going to be in the February in the team week in Dubai. So this is already 3 research engineers, 2 research scientists, 2 advisors, 1 TPM, and 1. We kicked off, as I mentioned, the work in the yellow. Finally, we are diving into BFT consensus itself. We had amazing success with papers in the last few months, right? So Sarah has 2 papers in financial crypto, and work that's going to be one of the bases for scalable consensus in subnets. They finally got published. So this is the work that I was working previously with Matej, who is joining Protocol Labs on February 7, and this went to Eurosys. And the highlights is that Dennis joined us January as a research engineer. He is actually the one who is integrating Tendermint as a UDICO subnet. Welcome, Dennis. Consensus Lab Week, as I mentioned, thanks Caroline and George for organizing this. It's difficult times to organize an event, but it seems that we are going to have an amazing event. So I'm really looking forward to this. We are thanking Zondax for their contributions to B2, and Sarah is taking over finishing and polishing the proof of concept. So that's great for Sarah, and we hope to see the full POC full blown towards the end of Q1. Alfonso and Lefteris are making great progress on B1, and as I mentioned, research scientists besides Sarah, and Sergey is joining as research engineer April 4th. We kicked off the collaboration with University of Bern on actually formalizing and modeling verifiable resource commitments. This is Filecoin consensus for you. We have a resource committed to a consensus. I mean, it's to a certain extent in proof of stake, but it's more like physical resources that we try to model there. We have in the pipeline, and you actually, I don't know if you see the challenges, but challenges, we want to hire at least one more research scientist. And if you have pointers, they're very welcome. Thank you so much. I'm done, Steve, actually a bit earlier.
Well done. And over to Retrieval.
Yeah, Retrieval markets. So we'll start off with the KPIs. The Retrieval.market page of Retrieval markets had double the number of visitors in January as it did in December. Hoping to keep that doubling going, although that won't go on forever, of course. We've got 6 active grants being worked on in the Retrieval market working group, which is really exciting. And we've got 5 more, and a few other in conversations, but 5 concrete grant proposals under consideration. So it's really starting to see the growth of that working group. We'll now go to highlights. So the Retrieval Buildathon is officially underway as of today. It's happening in Iceland over the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks. It's a private buildathon to start off with, so it's not like we've announced it for teams to come and join the buildathon yet. Maybe we'll see something like that happen later in the year. But yeah, so the idea here, as you can see on roadmap updates, will be to deploy a retrieval provider network with chosen retrieval provider operators and selected data sets. So we're looking just to roll out a initial retrieval network as part of Filecoin. Is following having seen Steve's really nice Stewards roadmap in a meeting last week, I thought it was time the retrieval markets had a similar. We've been in Notion, and we've been road mapping all of the different retrieval market working group projects and trying to interlink them, find out which ones are kind of dependent on each other and which ones are building on top of each other. So head to Notion to have a look at that. And then also the Retrieval.market website, which has doubled its visitors, is having a makeover, which should happen in the next month or so. Going back to the roadmap updates, kind of covers one. The second one is we're just going to, in Q2, make further progress on this buildathon, on this retrieval provider network, adding more features and hopefully linking to storage providers. And then the second half of the year, going to have a concrete and tested plan for retrieval crypto economics. I know I've only got a few seconds left, so I won't go in too much depth on the challenges. It's just working together with different parts of Protocol Labs and also scaling the impact of the retrieval market working group.
Update from Nitro. As mentioned, we crossed 25 million uploads to NFT storage, and then we also crossed 10 million uploads on Web3 storage. So, growing a ton, at least quad, if not exponential growth on uploads and users. So excited to see that. Updates on things that are landing soon. Tons of progress on, it says gateway.nft.storage here. We actually haven't landed on a name. I'll call it the NFT storage gateway right now. Vasco's been hard at work on that, hoping to launch this next week. The initial launch will be pulling from public gateways that exist out there already. We won't actually first collecting data on who are the fastest gateways, smartly caching depending on user behavior, and using that data to optimize to give users the best possible retrieval experience. We also have a big redesign of Web3.storage that is launching towards the end of next week, so keep tuned on that. It looks quite nice. Some highlights to highlight. Web3.storage CLI now has name commands. Well, Alan has an implementation of IPNS in Web3.storage. He's made a ton of progress on that despite having a million other things to juggle, and he implemented those methods now in the Web3.storage CLI. So expecting folks to be poking around with that, enabling them to have mutable references to CIDs pretty easily. Metaplex merge NFT.storage support. The current implementation is constrained by some quirks of our infrastructure, and they can only upload to 100 megabytes or megabytes. We are putting in some of our client-side library magic in there to have a better solution exists in Metaplex. So that's really exciting. That's where all the Solana folks go to mint their NFTs. Nifty Save was re-architected over 2 months or so. The huge amount of NFT data to eventually save that NFT data. So that's a big win, and now we're starting to save that data today. And then we had a cool blog post last week called Decentralizing NFT.storage. Please check that out to the and one quick flag on challenges. We are working through solutions from rate limiting from public gateways for the NFT.storage gateway. Just calling that out in case folks have some ideas to get around that. I think we have a solution we like and we're going with, but yeah, if any other folks have input, that's awesome. And that is it. Thank you.
Well, hello. So on the Bedrock side of things, if you aren't familiar with Bedrock, we're focused on storage and retrieval, like really making that world as reliable as humanly possible, and also focusing a lot this year on unlocking interop between IPFS and Filecoin, as well as all of this awesome work that's being done in retrieval markets. With that, some of the key metrics that we're analyzing today are our storage deal success rate and retrieval deal success rate. We're starting to get better rates here with the recent work that's been happening on Project Lightning, which is really focused a lot on data transfer reliability. They've done a ton of awesome work over the past like 4 to 6 weeks on implementing more instrumentation across the entire deal so we can understand where things are falling over. They're doing a ton of testing between estuary and storage providers right now on the retrieval side of things, doing a lot of concurrency building while we've done a lot of work to get the reliability in our DealBot environment improved. Like as at higher scales, we're starting to see that stumble. So we've been doing a lot of work there to make those improvements. Q1 is going to be a big year. A big quarter for us. Lots coming this quarter. Some of the things that we want to identify this quarter is expanding the metrics that we're analyzing, really understand like where in the storage pipeline are we seeing struggles. And so we're going to be looking at expanding to things like data preparation, packing DAGs in preparation for transport. So really understanding, do we have bottlenecks in storage aside from data transfer, so that we can really hit all those things in Q2 after we land all this awesome stuff in Q1. So general kind of timelines we're looking at here, Boost, which is focused a lot on the rebuild of markets for Lotus. And so the goal here is to land that by the end of Q1. I feel like we're on track for that. There's a lot of reliability improvements being built there, a lot of UX improvements as well. It's going to ship with a nice web UI to make it really easy for storage providers to be able to manage their deals, manage their funds, things like that. Lightning, again, we're also looking towards the end of Q1 for reliability improvements. And then what we're going to do is we're going to analyze like where are we at with data transfer speeds? Are we hitting where we need to be, or is there some subsequent work that we may jump on there in Q2? But we're targeting around the end of Q1, late February, sometime in March to land that work. And then indexing, as Will mentioned, we had last week our first full end-to-end retrieval. This is on mainnet against one of our storage providers. And that's, querying an indexer, getting to the node and actually pulling that data down. It's a huge win. It's a step in that direction of making sure that this data is, you don't have to keep track of where this data is on Filecoin anymore. You don't have to remember the SP. You can just go search by your CID. So it's going to be a huge. So looking to roll more of that out and work on adoption over the course of Q1. So major highlights, we already kind of went over Storage and Retrieval Summit. Thanks, Marina. That was a great talk. It was great being able to talk to some folks in the ecosystem about that and talk to some about some of the other stuff. One of the nice things about the Retrieval Summit is that it's really helped inform us, like, what are the next steps after this current bit of work in Q1? What are the main things we want to be working with in the ecosystem to enable those next steps for retrieval markets, interop, and then continuing performance improvements in storage and retrieval. And then challenges for us, again, really understanding like where are the bottlenecks in storage, and then as we transfer more to retrieval, where are the bottlenecks there, so we can make sure that we're maximizing our time and focusing on the hottest paths there. And then also understanding for us, as we expanded retrieval, where's kind of the incentive boundaries for storage provider and then our retrieval markets, really understanding like how can we enable the community to build really cool stuff on that and make sure that the foundations of that are really, really sound. But it's going to be an awesome Q1. Looking forward to chatting, and we'll hear more next month.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for tuning in. A lot of amazing updates from everyone here. As you can tell, it's the year is off to a great start. We have a lot going on, many threads, and a lot of stuff that's super exciting landing over the next couple of months. So it's going to be epic. And we are shockingly ahead of schedule, which is amazing. Congratulations, everyone. Great work. Have a happy rest of your Thursday, and we will see you all very shortly.